Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and it's Deb C, and place to be, it's Deb C. Boop, that's me. Boop, Deb C. Hey guys, and happy Sunday. Let's do that again. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy Saturday. I hope everybody is having a great flippin' day and a great weekend. Oh, it's the start of my vacanza, my vacation, my vacanza. I think vacanza is Italian for vacation, maybe, possibly. Anyways, so are you liking it? My little flip that I did? Check it out. Check it. I decided to do this today. I got all fancy for Walmart and Giant Eagle. Okay, so once again, I hope everybody is doing great. I had a little bit of a relaxing time last week. So I'm here now, and I am here for as long as you'll have me. So last night I finished watching the documentary on Hulu called Brats. It is directed by and starring Andrew McCarthy. This is something I was so looking forward to because, as anybody who knows me, they know. I was born in 1968, so I was a teenager in the 80s. The 80s were just like were the best time for me. I love it. I just absolutely love the 80s. And one of the biggest parts of the 80s for me was the movies. It was a time in the 80s when you had these movies that were coming out that had mostly teenagers. It didn't feature a lot of their families, but it was mostly teenagers. And they weren't, some of the movies, sure, were like teen comedies and were funny and ha-ha. But there were some that were, that had some substance to them. And starring in these movies was like a core group of people that you wouldn't see in just about every movie, but you would see together in a lot of movies. And so they became termed the Brat Pack. The Brat Pack comes from an article that David Blum wrote for the New Yorker in 1985. So before this, all of these young actors and actresses were starring in movies. And we're talking about, for me, the Brat Pack was, Queen of the Brat Pack was Molly Ringwald. It was Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy, Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall, which I'm going to tell you, he did not mention Anthony Michael Hall not even once. And he was in 3 great 80s movies. He was in 16 Candles, he was in The Breakfast Club, he was in Weird Science. And I found that odd, but that was the core of this group that would be termed Brat Pack. So this writer, David Blum, he goes out to Los Angeles. He hangs out with, I believe it was with Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe. Oh, did I mention Rob Lowe was also in the Brat Pack? And Judd Nelson. And it was originally just to be centered on Emilio Estevez. So he goes out there, he hangs out with them, and out comes this article called The Brat Pack. And in it, it was not as favorable to these young actors and actresses as they thought it would be. It kind of painted them a little bit in the light of all they wanted to do was party, and they didn't take their craft seriously. He was saying that these were kids who were just like coming out of high school, like high school productions maybe, and just like landing big movies. For example, Tom Cruise. Like Tom Cruise came right out of high school and just landed and just landed a spot in a Hollywood blockbuster. So he was talking about that. So these young actors and actresses, they're in the top of the world, and then this article comes out, and all of the sudden, it was like doors that were once opened were closed, and people were like kind of questioning them, and they maybe didn't want them, they didn't get cast as much as they had previously, or writers, directors, producers didn't want them filming with people that they maybe had originally filmed with. So this movie, I really thought that going in, I thought this was going to be more nostalgia. What had really drawn me to this film was the nostalgia of it, because for me, these movies were, while they were entertaining, there were a few that really hit me as like, I'm kind of seen, because in high school, I was not popular. I mean, hard to believe I wasn't. I mean, I was a chubby, you know, I was a fat, chubby. I mean, I look back at the pictures now and I'm like, boy, I wish I could be as fat as as fat as I was then. I mean, literally. But I was somebody that was on, like, I wasn't popular. I was in band and I was in color guard, and I liked all types of music. However, my favorite music was like the alternative. I loved Duran Duran, and I still do. Like, I loved them before Hungry Like the Wolf came out, like Planet Earth, Careless Memories. I liked them then. And I liked bands that nobody else in high school was listening to, like The Cure. I did listen to the Smiths a little bit. They were a little too depressed for me. But Depeche Mode, Echo and the Bunnymen, Susie Sue, New Order, Erasure, that is, and all of the English new wave bands, that is who I loved. And so for me, having someone like Molly Ringwald in Pretty in Pink, because I would routinely go to school early on in my high school career with like dyed hair, where I would dye it with like food coloring, and I would show up with like a different color hair. I was the girl that had that dyed my hair, my bangs blonde, because John Taylor did it. I mean, that's a story in itself, but I'll tell that some other time. But so her character Andy in Pretty in Pink was like, it made me seen. Or even though I wasn't anything like Ali Sheedy's character in The Breakfast Club, I mean, still I wasn't an outcast, but I wasn't, I wasn't understood. So some of these movies really resonated with me. So I so love just 80s culture. I love everything about 80s culture back in the day and now. So I watched it thinking, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be nostalgia. But I feel like it didn't completely hit the mark. Andrew McCarthy, he talked with, so what it was he wanted to talk to everybody who was in the Brat Pack and get their take on how they felt this article affected them. He talked with Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, Leah Thompson, who else? Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, John Cryer. I think I got everybody. And then he also talked to some producers. He talked to the director of Pretty in Pink, and he talked to the gentleman, the reporter who wrote the article, David Blum. The only people he did not speak with, he put a call into Judd Nelson. He put a call into Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald had said, it's great to hear from you. However, I don't want to look backwards. Listen, I can see it from both sides. She doesn't want to revisit it because it was something that I guess had affected her, and she really did not like that term. But the funny thing is, I think it's odd that she doesn't want to go back. However, right now she's out on the road with Comic-Cons. I know she was just in Pittsburgh, along with Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall. They were at Steel City Con in Monroeville. They did a panel on the Breakfast Club. So, I mean, she's okay with talking about that. Maybe it's just that she doesn't want to talk about Brat Pack. So I'm kind of torn on that. Judd Nelson, he said Judd Nelson is hard to track down. At the end of the whole documentary, if you don't want this spoiler, there's spoiler, don't listen. He ends up getting a call from Judd Nelson, or at least that's who we think it is, because he's like, Judd. And then they show him as Bender at the end, putting his arm up like that. And I like that ending. That ending kind of, I don't want to say it made me cry, but it kind of did. It kind of teared me up a little bit, just taking me back and thinking about things. But they did not have, like I said, they had John Cryer. John Cryer was in one movie, and that was Pretty in Pink. So for me, he was Brat Pack adjacent. Like, same thing with Molly, or same thing with Leah Thompson, and same thing with Timothy Hutton. I did not understand why they had Timothy Hutton in. They were like, you are like the grandfather of the Brat Pack. So the thing that I was not a fan of in this is, listen, and this pains me to say it, because I liked Andrew McCarthy back in the day, but he came off kind of whiny. He didn't come off kind of whiny. He came off whiny. Like, to me, this was a documentary about him just like throwing everything out there on everybody and kind of expecting everybody to be like, I completely understand. I feel the same way. I felt that way, and I still feel the same way. But the thing is just about everybody else has moved on. Do they have like the same, some of them don't have the same success that they had, back in the day, but there's quite a few that have moved on. And the two that really got me was like Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe was kind of just like, I thought it was a clever term, and hey, it helped me, which, look at Rob Lowe. I mean, he's had so much success afterwards. And the best part of this was Demi Moore. Demi Moore gets in there and spits down truths. He goes in, and I had to write this down because, who was it? Andrew McCarthy walks in to her and says, the past is the present and the future too. But it doesn't have to be. He's living too much in the past. And Demi Moore basically, I feel like he should send Demi Moore like a check for copay, because she was just his therapist for this whole thing. That's what this felt like to me. This felt like Andrew McCarthy goes to therapy and we get to watch it. But basically, Demi Moore's whole thing to him was like, listen, this writer wrote this article, his words obviously triggered some kind of insecurity in you, and then you let that limit your abilities. That's it. That's right. That's right. And she was like, I didn't like the phrase at first. However, I moved on. That's what you need to do. You need to move on from this. It seemed kind of like self-indulgent and whiny. And I forget who it was that was like, hey, it's not cancer, but it's not that bad. You're right. I mean, it wasn't a great article, but are you going to let that article define you? Or are you going to let this person define you? I like I said, I watched for the nostalgia. I like that. I was really hoping I would love this, but then near the end, Andrew McCarthy meets with the guy who wrote this article, David Blum. He went in there really expecting that this guy was going to be like, oh shit, here's this guy that I wrote. Here's this guy that's in the Brat Pack. I better apologize to him. He didn't do that. He was like, listen, it was an article. I wrote it. I was hoping it would catch on and earn me some money. And he was like, well, if you had to do it again, would you do it again? Andrew McCarthy surely was like thinking, he's going to say, yeah, I wouldn't do it again. He was like, yeah, I would do it again. Which, I mean, come on. And the reason why he came up with Brat Pack, see, I always thought that Brat Pack was like a cool, interesting play on the Rat Pack. But he actually said that when he was out there in California, he was thinking about this guy who'd always call like him and his friends the Fat Pack. That popped into his head, that joke, and then he just thought Fat Pack, Brat Pack. That's how it came to be. But yeah, Andrew McCarthy, at first he gets in there and he's laughing and he's joking and everything and he's talking with him. He's like, ha ha ha, oh, and then his demeanor takes a turn as he's hearing this guy talk about it, and it's obvious this guy isn't gonna be like, oh my gosh, I fell on my knees. I'm so sorry that I wrote this about you. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Listen, it was an article. It wasn't that complimentary. However, rise above it. And in all actuality, Andrew McCarthy, I think somebody said Andrew McCarthy was only mentioned in it like once. He took the most offense to it. I mean, so at the end of the day, would I recommend it? I mean, if you are Gen X and greatest generation of all, if you are in Gen X and you grew up in the 80s and you absolutely love the movies of the 80s, the teen movies, watch it just for like nostalgia's sake. I wish there was more of it in it. Overall, it just seemed like a vehicle for Andrew McCarthy to feel better. Like at the end, he realized, like at the beginning, he was like, I hate this. And then in the center, he was like, I hate this. And then after he talked to like Demi Moore and, Demi Moore and Rob Lowe, those were the two that really were kind of like, you could tell Rob Lowe was almost wanting to be like, I'm going to humor this guy and I'm just going to go along, but for real. Like, it still put us out there, so I don't know what to tell you. When he saw that everybody else had moved on and he saw that like there were all these like great memories between all of them, and that's the other thing that kind of struck me. Like, I really thought back in the day that these actors and actresses were just hanging out together all the time. They weren't at all. Like, it didn't seem like they were great friends. It seems to me like they just made the movie and then that's it. Another interesting thing that I found out about Pretty in Pink, Pretty in Pink, originally, Andy was supposed to wind up with Ducky. And so they shot it, and the test audience hated it, like booed. Originally, it was supposed to be that Blaine, Andrew McCarthy's character, shows up at the prom with a date. Ducky and Andy walk in, and they have their talking. They get everything out, and then Ducky and Andy go out and dance. The crowd hated it. They absolutely hated it. So Andrew McCarthy is back in New York. He's doing a play about where he plays like a military guy. He had his head shaved. They had to call him back. So they put that wig on him that was ridiculous looking. Like, he was like, I didn't even have to act like I was sad because that wig did it all. And I remember thinking at the time, like, what is up with his hair? He looked terrible. It was the worst wig. So yeah, that was a little inside information, a little behind the scenes information about Pretty in Pink, which I loved. That I never knew. And if I'm being completely honest, listen, like I love the ending, but I mean, it's iconic when she runs outside and they're kissing in front of the car headlights. But honestly, I was kind of team Ducky. Like Ducky was the kind of person that I was like. I liked alternative music, and there were times when I would dress sometimes in like, fashion that was like not like along with everybody's popular dress. I was team Ducky kind of. So, but yeah, that was my thoughts on Bratz. If I were giving it out of 5, I would probably say, it hurts me to say this, 3, maybe 3 or 2.5 or 3. I'm just saying. I mean, if I'm giving it A, B, C, I would probably give it like a middle of the road C, not like C plus or C minus. I would say middle of the road C. Just because Andrew McCarthy came off as too whiny for me. I mean, in the end, he finally got there where he was like, where he saw that it wasn't such a bad thing, and you're the one that was holding yourself back. So I don't know. So there we go. If you watched it, please let me know what you thought in the comments. I'm going to tell you, 80s girl forever here. So if nobody told you yet today, listen, I love you. You're loved, seen, and heard. Please make sure that you put love, kindness, compassion, acceptance, hope, and positivity out there in the world so it comes right back at you. Please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Number 1, please always be aware of your surroundings. Number 2, stay safe. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.